Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Dexter Calo. In this video, I'm going to kind of talk about how I actually got a 128 plus on the bio and biochemistry section. So this is the third section of the MCAT. Without further ado, I'm just gonna get started. First thing is to definitely know your content as much as you can. So the thing about bio and biochem section is that you don't necessarily have to know all of the material, like content wise. Like for example, if we take respiratory system, you don't have to go into detail. You just need to know the basics of how it literally works and what are the components for that system to be able to learn how to apply that when it comes to passages. You could do this with Anki. In regards to Anki, that's kind of how I retain my information. For me, when I first studied for the exam, I didn't really know how to basically retain so much information because the bio and biochem section is a lot. So you need to find a way that works for you in retaining those, going to build up as you progress your studying. So that's something to consider as you move forward. Use Anki. Personal opinion, that was the best app because it's spaced repetition and it's been scientifically proven to work on so many students, and it definitely worked for me and I'm very happy it did. I recommend that for you guys as well. So definitely know the content well enough to be able to explain it and to know how to think in different ways. So don't just memorize one fact and think you understood the topic. Let's say if TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is low, then what does that mean regarding other hormones involved in the process? Like, are they also low? Are they also high? Of course, there are content where you just have to memorize it, but generally when it comes to organ systems, and especially for biochemistry, find a way to not only memorize it as you go, but also consider the fact of, okay, how am I able to use this information when you look into a passage to be able to tell, oh, I know what they're talking about. In regards to content, since we're still kind of on that subject, is you definitely want to use UWorld. I think this one is the best third-party resource for any MCAT prep that you do. Anything I missed, I actually made an Anki flashcard about. Not only the things that I miss, okay, so answer A is this. Did I know it? No, then I'll put that in a flashcard as well. Even though that wasn't the correct answer. You don't want to memorize answer to a question. You want to memorize what about this content in the question and in the answer choice. You are able to link those two concepts together, or what in the passage did you need to answer this question in relation to the content surrounding that question. It's kind of weird right now, but it'll start to make sense as you continue to do practice problems. You'll start to see how, okay, this is what the passage presented. So I don't know any of what these enzymes are even called or where they came from. I know that based on its characteristics it presented, it's this type of enzyme, therefore it does this type of function. With that being said, if you are using Anki, you must review all the cards. It tells you in the app every single day. There's not a day that you should miss. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I did miss some couple days because life. Definitely try to do your best to keep up with it because it will pile up and you don't want that. Okay, so now we kind of covered the content aspect of the biochem section. Now let's kind of move on to where to take it from here. With content alone, you'll probably reach 123 to 125. That's the range I think content will get you. But to really take it from 128 and beyond, you really need to apply these application skills. Now that you've honed down the content, you're really confident in all these subjects and all these topics. Now it's really a strategy at this point. I use Atlas as my third-party resource, and the reason why is because discounted for 10 exams was $100. Also, I really like the exam because it was really hard. I like that type of challenge because I know that it will help me in the long run when I transition to AMC. And I was right. What I would do is I actually read the passage first, but I don't read it to, like for example, how I would read a CARS passage. I would read it and try to highlight some important characteristics or features that they might mention within the passage that I can connect to the content itself. So I'm not necessarily saying like to memorize every enzyme and what they do. You start to extract the type of concept that they're presenting because those types of concepts are highly likely to be asked in the questions. At this point in their first read, you do not want to analyze the figures just yet. Definitely, I would just read the title, like what it's presenting, and that's about it. And now when you go through the questions and you actually get a question about a figure or a table, this is when you want to start analyzing the figure. So you want to look at a couple things. You want to look at the purpose of the study that's presented for that figure. You want to look at the axis, and then you want to look at the comparison to the wild type, and if that's available. Usually in the graph they have like wild type or original enzymes, whatever. Those are the ones that you need to compare it to what the experiment was testing, and you'll get familiar with what I'm saying. And then last but not least, you want to look at the trend. So purpose of the study, the axis, comparison to the wild type, and then the trend that you see within the figures. Okay, that you figured that out. If it asks for the figure, wanna read the question one more time to know what it really is asking, because you can be like, according to figure 1, you're like, okay, so let's go to figure 1, and then you analyze it, great, you have all this information, and then you go to the question choices and you start to say, oh, okay, this is what it was talking about, so this one. But maybe that's not what the question was asking. This doesn't happen all the time, but definitely read the question one more time where you look at the answer choices. My tip is that if you analyze the figure well enough, you have a strong chance of knowing the answer already before you read the answer choices. And honestly, I think that's the best way to go about it when it comes to figures, is to get an idea of what the answer should be based on what you analyze. You should also do this on questions that's not figures. Like when you read a question from the passage or even discrete question, you should automatically know, okay, this is the direction I think they're going with, let's see if I'm correct. Kind of that mentality before you read the answer choice. Because when you read the answer choices, you're just kind of validating it at that point. You're not really putting in what you actively looked at and what you actively read. MCAT questions, they're kind of meant to trick you sometimes, so also don't fall for that trap. Another tip is that it would be wise to kind of draw things here and there. Do not want to write sentences. You want to keep it short. You want to do arrows. You want to do some symbols that you made during your prep that makes sense to you, because honestly, no one's going to look at the paper except you. They're going to erase it the second you're done with the exam. They don't know what you wrote. They don't care what you wrote. You need to know what you write and what makes sense to you the most, whether there's arrows, some symbols, a star. I don't know what that means to you, but if it works for you, do it, because you need to save time, but you also need to be able to understand what you're actually writing, and hopefully that helps you throughout the process in answering your questions. Usually I start to do drawings or those arrows thing, and the passage talks about like, oh, this enzyme affects this enzyme, which means this activates this enzyme. For those types of passages, I like to like track myself, but I don't want to get too lost into reading every detail to capture it. Draw arrows here and there, and hopefully that they'll ask a question about it. And last but not least, that the best tip that I could give you guys is to focus on the purpose of the experiment and of course the actual question itself, because at least for me, I tend to get lost sometimes in analyzing the figures, trying to answer the question, but I don't really know what the purpose of the experiment or purpose of the passage and what the actual study is about. Because if you get that down, like the hypothesis, for example, if they say it, or the purpose of the study, you kind of get an idea of what this was all done in the first place, and that can give you an even better direction to what the answer should be.